Welcome to Unboxable. I'm Alena and I'm a Somatic Therapist, Educator, Black Belt, and forever student of the human experience. This is the space where we explore powerful, grounded practices, honest stories, and fresh perspectives that can help you reconnect with yourself, gently release those old, sticky patterns, and start navigating life with greater power, clarity, and ease. Every episode will uncover simple, grounded ways to recalibrate your nervous system and create real change that actually lasts. Let's begin. Alena Turley here with the beautiful Lael Stone. Hello, Lael.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, me too. I was just saying offline that I have a little bit of a professional lady crush on Lael, and I've been getting to know her stuff through podcasting and through various things. Lael, tell me a little bit about your background.
That's a good question, isn't it? And you kind of go, how far back do we go?
As long.
Look, really, I guess with the work I do now, it's probably been the last 20 years of my work. So I started, I guess, working with families in birth nearly 20 years ago. So I worked as a childbirth educator. I was teaching calm birth. I was a doula. And then I started working in postnatal kind of trauma care with women that had traumatic birth experiences, or families really, and babies. I discovered aware parenting probably about 14 years ago, thanks to the birth of my third baby. And that opened up a whole other world for me around working with families who have had trauma, or helping families stay connected through working through feelings and emotions. And then that really led me onto understanding what I call our own imprints and the stories we carry from our own childhood, and how that turns up in parenting, and how we often need to work with that to help shift even our children's behavior, but how we're responding. I also spent about 5 years teaching pleasure-based sex education to teenagers in secondary schools, which was amazing fun. I think for some people that sounds like their idea of hell. It's just one of the best jobs ever, working with teens for a long time. And about 4 years ago now, I actually started building my own primary school. So we opened our school about a year and a bit ago. It's a primary school that is down here in Victoria, just out of Geelong, in a place called Ceres. It's on a farm. We have lots of beautiful animals. We use a lot of nature and play-based learning. But the essence of the school is all around emotional awareness. So our whole lens that we look through with everything is, how do we help children feel emotionally safe, with the understanding that when kids feel safe, then they're open to learning. We welcome all feelings and expressions at our school. We're so much about choice and autonomy. It really is the primary school that I wished I had have gone to. It's a school I wish I could have sent my children to. It's a school that I see so many parents want, because, they're looking for a change in education. So that's kind of the things I've done. But more than that, I think the thing that overrides all of that is that I'm a mama to 3 beautiful, big children. My son is almost 22. And then I have a 19-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old daughter. And no matter what training or workshops or books or courses I've done, nothing compares to trying to raise your kids with awareness and consciousness. And they have been my biggest, most beautiful teachers. So that's kind of, where I am today.
Amazing. Well, so first of all, I'm just actually, as you're speaking, getting chills and thinking, how can I move closer to your school? Because it sounds unbelievable.
Yes, yes.
I too am trained as an educator, and I too teach teens and work in a high school, but it's a mainstream public boys' school. So it's very interesting coming into that with an emotional awareness, and I actually do the best I can to bring that to my job, and it is an amazing thing when you bring that into a classroom. I can only do it in my classes, not as a school-wide thing. I absolutely applaud you for doing that. It's so needed.
It's huge. Building our school's called Woodline Primary, and building Woodline it's one of the most challenging and extraordinary things I've ever done in my life. And I knew nothing about building school. Like, I'm not a formal teacher. And it came about really because one of my clients who I'd been working with for a few years, she had 6 children, and one of her children was studying prep, and she was like, I hate the punitive aspects. I hate that they put his name on the board for moving or talking too much. And God, I wish there was a school that could be held with all the things that you've taught me. And, you know, she came back to me one day and said, what if we built a school? And I was like, I have no idea how to build a school. But, you know, she had the financial means to back it and support it. And she said, why don't we just build the school that we know could exist? And so, you know, it took us nearly 3 years. You know, I spent hours sitting on my couch writing policies, like having to learn from people who'd done it before. It's not an easy thing to do. It's very, very hard. There's a reason why not many people open schools, and it's because it's super challenging. But I think it just was meant to be. It kind of came through us. And, you know, the first day that we opened the school, I think was one of the proudest days of my life. I just cried. And we're still learning. Like, we've been open for a year and a bit now, and it's doubled in size and it's growing, and it won't ever be huge because we really have small class sizes. And I think, like, just relating to what you're saying there, sometimes I really see that teachers can only do so much in a system that's very punitive and that really isn't about choice and autonomy. So we were like, well, what if we flip it and actually change from the ground up so that we don't do punishments and rewards, and we're always looking behind the behavior, and we focus mainly on connection, you know, because connection helps to create cooperation, and all our team do a lot of their own self-processing work so that they can turn up and be the calm adults that we need to be for children. And we've just taken a whole different approach. You know, it's still about educating our kids and helping them be, you know, numerate and literate and all that kind of stuff. But really we start with the emotional and the connection and the relationship first, and then the rest comes.
Oh, look, that's just what you just said applies to more than just schooling. I mean, it's kind of the foundation of a lot of the work I've done too. And built communities of mothers in behalf, and where I live now locally as well, and there's thousands. And the main reason I do that is because, to me, connection is just the fabric of our existence, and it is so often overlooked in our culture. And so to hear that that's your driving force, that is the starting point, you know, it's just so heartening. I really am so happy for you guys and for the people that you are bringing into that reality with you, you know.
Thank you. You know, look, there were many times in the building of it that I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing here, and this feels really hard. And yet I just thought, well, who am I not to do it? Who are, you know, my partner Mel and I not to create something and see what happens? And I could see the amount of interest we've had from the public. I get emails every week from people all overseas going, can you bring a wood line here, or how do we build a school? Like, it just has reached so many people because I think they're going, we want it to look different. We want it to be different for our children. And I just see that it's time to change, you know, the way things have been done for a really long time. And as I'm sure you know in your work, it's time the way we look after mums and families. It's time that we change, you know, our community and our support networks. It's time for that big fundamental systemic change to support families.
100%. And I feel like that big hole that and when I heard you say that you worked with women and families who felt trauma following birth, particularly, that's something that I feel is so under-recognized. It's such a key area of how the next generation comes into the world and experiences their first few years, or maybe even their first 20 years.
Yep.
And it's not something that I feel I hear a lot about in mainstream conversations. Which surprises me, because statistically we have, you know, the mental health statistics around postnatal health, and they're glaringly, you know, and I did consider going into that, actually, funnily enough, as a way into the work that I do. And I think I probably will likely get some trauma training at some point. I've had an experience of trauma in my life that informs me, but it's just it's an area that I feel so many women are affected by, but there seems to be a lot of shame and guilt around it. And I just am so like, but hang on a minute. You need unconditional love and ongoing support, and yet you're receiving judgment, or like, you just don't handle your stress very well, or those sort of comments. I heard a mental health professional, a medical professional, said to a family member of mine following a traumatic birth and child with special needs, and they said, you're depressed, which I believe it was much more complex than that. But they said, you're depressed and you need to go back to work. So you have yourself. And her heart just fell that was the advice she was getting from a trusted mainstream professional. And I don't blame the mainstream professionals. There's blame here. There's a lack of resources for those people as well.
100%. Yeah. And understanding about what trauma is. And here's the thing that I guess I have found in all my years of working with families and trauma is it's often not just that event that the trauma is from. It's a cumulative effect of many traumas that have happened throughout our lives, which haven't been processed, that get stored in the body. And then we have this big experience, which is a physical experience. A lot of that trauma can be unlocked within that. And then we come out the other side feeling completely broken or not being able to cope. And then, our symptoms become even louder and more heightened and you can't band-aid it. You can't just put something on it and then make it go away. You have to journey through it. Yet we need the support and understanding and the information to be able to journey through it so you can come out the other side and thrive, not just survive, but actually thrive.
Completely. And so saying someone's listening to this right now, Lael, that would be their starting point. If they're feeling this is, light bulbs lighting up in them and they're feeling a resonance with what you're saying, where do they begin?
Well, look, I think with any trauma, but if we're talking more about birth for the moment, are you or anything?
Trauma in early
birth. Yeah. Look, I think the first thing that I'm such a fan of is support. We all need listening. And the way that I look at trauma is on a few levels. One, the brain firstly has to understand the story, has to understand why they're feeling what happened or where they're at. So, if you have a traumatic birth experience where you might have planned a beautiful natural birth and it ends up in a cesarean and, you felt powerless, all those kind of things. We have to often unpack the story as to how we got to where we are. And when the brain can begin to understand, oh yeah, that happened and then that happened and then, these kind of things, we begin to start letting the body know, okay, that's the story that actually happened. But I think one of the big issues in our culture is that when trauma happens, we don't know how to navigate it in the moment. So if we're talking about birth or we're talking even early parenting, just having a little person that you're meant to be responsible for, there is so much feelings of powerlessness when you become a parent. So you're feeling very out of control. That can activate traumas from when you were younger of feeling out of control or feeling powerless. There's so many things that often get activated within us because it all sits in our bodies if we don't move it. So I think the first piece is we firstly just have to understand the story. And sometimes understanding the story is by unpacking it with someone who understands trauma. So in the sense of birth, it could be doing a proper full birth debrief with someone who, is a postnatal counsellor who understands the system and can understand birth. Perhaps if it is just about early parenting, it's talking to someone who has real experience with, feelings and trauma and just that transition into parenthood and all the elements that go with that. So I think the first thing we do is we understand it. The second thing is we have to allow the feelings that are there to be felt and to be moved. And so this can sometimes be done with body work, but it also, and probably the main core work I do is about not turning away from the anxiety or not turning away from the panic, but actually turning towards it, feeling supported and safe enough, and then feeling the feelings that we couldn't afford to feel at the time. So we're very clever as humans is that when something happens to us, we either fight, we run away, we freeze, we try and, make it all okay. And we don't often complete the natural trauma process that our body's designed to do, which can look like shaking, it can look like laughing, it can look like crying, it can look like yelling. It's all about the elements where our body is trying to reset itself from the shock, the adrenaline, all the things that happen. And so often we don't allow it to complete. So we kind of stop it in its tracks and then it gets stored in the body. Sometimes it's not safe to feel it in the moment when something happens to us. Sometimes it's only after when we go, okay, there's enough safety now. Now I can actually feel what I need to feel. But I think for me, the number one thing when it comes to helping to process any of our traumas or feelings is we need safety first. Yes. And what that safety is a safe person where we feel like we're not going to be judged, who can listen to us, who brings a sense of comfort and warmth, so that our nervous system can actually go, okay, it's okay for me to feel what I need to feel here. And I think it's really important to remember that as a culture and a society, we do not do well with feelings at all. The message that most of us received when we were little is to suck it up, is to not feel that way, is to distract yourself, is to band-aid it with something. We're often not modeled healthy ways to feel our feelings. So it's no wonder that when we have big life events like becoming a parent or something big happening to us, that all the feelings that was being stored in our bodies that haven't actually been able to be felt start to bubble up and over the top. And that's where we see a lot of anxiety and depression or rage or mother rage or aggression or all these feelings that we can no longer contain anymore because it's reached a tipping point.
Yes. And I think that's amazing that our body does tell us when we're at that point.
Yeah.
And it moves us to address it.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I'm curious, that was an amazing answer, by the way. Thank you for that. It's beautifully said. And I'm very curious how it is that you came to be interested in working in the area of trauma and support, if that's not too big a question.
No, not at all. Wow. It's because of my own trauma, which is, I think, what we all
Say.
Yes, yes. Well, look, I think on some level, I look back to the birth of my son 22 years ago. I was a young mum, no idea, had no education, just thought I'd wing it, see how we go. Like a lot of first-time mothers who weren't informed, didn't have the right support. I ended up with a huge cascade of interventions in my birth. I planned to have a natural water birth and ended up with, induction and gas, pethidine, epidural, episiotomy, vacuum extraction. I had a full smorgasbord. Yeah. And I came out the other side of my son's birth just like, what the hell just happened to me? Yeah. And I probably spent the first year of his life in shock. Like I just could not make sense. And I didn't really have any friends that had kids and nobody around me to be able to go, hey, you're actually okay. I wasn't okay, but I was functioning. But, I was not very, very present with what was happening. I was kind of hiding from it.
Sure.
And so then
Actually.
Yeah, which is what we do because you survive. You become a parent and you're like, oh my God, I've got to look after this little person. And then really I got pregnant for the second time and just thought I've got to do it differently. And that's actually what got me into working birth. I met a beautiful midwife and a home birth doctor and chose to have my second baby at home. I had a beautiful water birth and that moment kind of changed my life because I remember holding my daughter in my arms going, oh my God, this is what you're meant to feel like. That sense of elation and pride, and I just couldn't believe the power and the strength that I felt. And that's what just fueled this deep desire to want to work in birth and support other women to know that. Yeah. But I probably still hadn't unpacked my son's birth, but, just kind of carry on. Mm-hmm. And then I actually started working in birth and became a childbirth educator and doula and went to lots and lots and lots of births. And so then I got pregnant with my third, planned to have another beautiful water birth at home. My daughter had a completely different idea. We discovered in early labour that she was breech, and so we went off to hospital, and then we discovered she was a footling breech, which was not ideal. But I worked really hard to try and see if I could birth her vaginally, and after trying every single trick in the book that I knew, I just presumed she wanted to be born by cesarean because there was no way she was coming out. And so we went to have a cesarean, but I had a really bad reaction to the spinal, and therefore she had a bad reaction, and she was being resuscitated for about 10 minutes and, they didn't expect her to live. And, she was in an induced coma for the first 4 days of her life. And it was kind of one of those worst case scenarios, so far from the idea of what I thought I'd be having this beautiful water birth at home. But I was guided to be in the right place, which was, I had a wonderful midwife and she knew early on we need to go to hospital and get support just in case. And, we did everything we needed to. And it really, I think it was right just at the end, whether I'd had enough, she'd had enough, who knows. Yeah. Anyway, she came through the experience, much to everybody's surprise. The doctors were like, I've actually never seen a baby recover this way. But it really taught me a lot about trust and surrender. I remember, the first day after she was born, I went and saw her and I remember just holding her hand and saying to her, I trust you to do whatever you need to do. If you need to go, then go. Of course, I want you to stay, but I trust your journey. Like you do what you need to. Yeah, I feel like I had no other choice. It was like one of those moments where you think surrender, but surrender is really getting down on your knees and saying, I let go of all that is meant to be here. Yeah. So it was one of the most defining, incredible moments of my life where it really taught me about deep trust and letting go. Anyway, she came through the experience. I came through the experience. When we finally got home, I knew enough about birth and trauma to know that we'd probably had a lot and that we were going to have to work through it. And that's where I discovered the work of Dr. Aleta Salter and Aware Parenting, which was really about helping not only my baby release the stress and trauma from her birth experience, but also helping me. And so once I read Aleta's books and it made so much sense to me, I would spend every day I would find a time once I'd met my baby's needs, I'd fed her, or, she had a clean nappy, and I would take her into my bedroom and I'd hold her in my arms and I would look her in the eye and I'd say to her, if there's anything you want to tell me, then I'm listening. And she almost every time would just start crying. And she would cry and I'd just hold her in my arms, and sometimes I would cry, and sometimes it would go for 10 minutes, sometimes it would go for half an hour. And then at the end, always when she'd finish crying, she would just look deeply into my eyes, or she would smile, or she'd go into this deep, peaceful sleep. And it was like I began to see the trauma melting away. It was like she was telling me, and this happened, and then that happened. And so she started doing that. And then I started doing that with my adult support. I would talk about the story and I'd cry about certain bits. And slowly I began to see both of us started to heal. And what was amazing is my beautiful cousin's an osteopath, and she works with babies all the time from a cranial osteopathy perspective. Yeah, it's so beautiful. And so she was treating Tali. And, when we first started doing this, really listening to her feelings, I'd take her for a session and my cousin would be like, what are you doing? Her whole nervous system's changed. Her whole cells feel like they're integrated. And she was like, oh my God, keep going. So she kept feeding back to me what she was feeling. And it absolutely blew me away, because I just thought, wow, the shift and changing I was seeing, which I was doing because of the trauma, but also it then made me look at my two older kids and thought, oh my goodness, I think I've shut you down most of your lives. I think I've just tried to keep you happy all the time and not listen to your feelings. And so it was through the discovery of that work and doing this incredible healing with my daughter and then with myself, it really gave me a whole other understanding about trauma. So through that journey, I then had PTSD, which kind of popped up when the time is right, which it would, of course, when you go through a life or death experience.
Yeah.
And so then that really taught me the skills of what it was like to be on the other side of feeling that panic, that worry, that anxiety, that wanting it to stop, being pushed to the edge where you're like, I just don't want to feel this anymore. But I began to learn that the only way to heal this is to move through it. And so that's when I just started feeling and really getting the support I needed and came out the other side just looking back going, my daughter's birth was the biggest gift I have ever been given. Yeah. I would not change one single part of her story. Yeah. It's taken me to the work that I do now. It's created this deeper level of intimacy and connection with all three of my children by helping me meet them in their feelings, shaped everything. So I feel like it was just the greatest gift I'd ever been given. My trauma was the thing that actually helped me be who I need to be. It gave me such a deeper sense of the truth of who I am. And I will forever be grateful for it.
That's fascinating. I talked about this very recently. Same thing, because it's a hard thing to explain. That's something that on the outset and on the appearance and on the face of it looks like such a tragic, adverse, difficult experience. However, if something like that forges you into a kind of a new understanding and I guess it kind of cracks you open. Yeah. And I think it takes a lot of courage to allow that to happen.
It's huge.
And in the moment, you probably are not necessarily choosing courage. It's not like that. I don't think it's a conscious. I've had PTSD as well. And I think it's a hard thing to explain because it's an experience. It's an experiential thing. There's kind of not really words for it.
No.
And it doesn't make sense logically.
No, it doesn't. And it's for a while there, I kept trying to do a new modality to fix what I was feeling. Like I'd try this thing and I'd try that thing. And then I'd be like, why am I not fixed? Like, why do I still have these feelings? And it's not linear. Like you have to just roll with it. It takes time. And I think in the end, whenever something would pop up, I just, instead of turning away from it and trying to distract myself out of it, I just lean in and go, okay, this part's here today. So let's feel this part. I remember so clearly one time I had this image or something when it really dawned on me that when my baby opened her eyes for the first time, I was not the person she saw, right? It was a nurse, right? And I didn't get to hold her for the first time. And all those first things that we know are so important about bonding.
Yes.
And all those waves of feeling come up. And then I just had to cry about it, and I had to feel it, and I had to just let it move through me, and then it would ease. And so it was about leaning in and feeling. And, you know, one of the greatest things I had was my beautiful listening partner, which was a dear friend of mine. And in the beginning, when I realized I really had to work through this trauma, I said, is it okay if I just ring you and just say, I need to talk about this bit, and I just need to talk about it for 10 minutes and cry? And she'd go, yep. And and I would say to her, I just don't want to explain anything else. I need to talk about this bit. And she'd go, absolutely. And so many times something would come up, and I'd just call her and I'd go, can you listen to me talk about this again? Just feel like yes. And I would do the same for her. You know, she had a son with a disability, and she had lots of similar feelings. And so we became that for each other. You know, I feel like a listening partner is just one of the greatest gifts we can have in mothering, because stuff comes up and we need to talk about it, and we need to be heard with it, and we need to allow ourselves to feel it, so that once we do, we then have more capacity to listen to our own children or be empathetic to where they're at. So that was one of the greatest things I did, was just send her a message and go, can I talk for 5 minutes? And she'd go, yep. And she'd pick up the phone, and I'd be like, oh, this part's here again. And I'd just cry, and she'd go, I know it's so hard, and you're doing a good job, and keep going. And I'd feel it, and then that was it, you know. And eventually, over time and through talking and feeling and crying and lots of other beautiful things, it moved to a completely different place.
Yeah, that's a remarkable story. And I heard this beautiful story during COVID where Simon Sinek, the leadership empathy guy,
Yes.
he talked about how during COVID he made a pact with his friends that they would not cry alone because they were living alone.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Alone. But he said he made a pact with other friends of his generation who didn't necessarily have people in their homes with them.
Yeah.
And they did that all through COVID. Whenever they had a big feeling, they rang each other.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that. It made me cry. I just thought that's really the way that I am moved to be.
Yeah.
But it's not always possible.
Yes.
In the structures that we have. And I also bring in similar awarenesses with the women I work with about you just got to be with other people. It's not really about a fix or a solution or advice, but that skill of holding space, you know, it's a real skill.
Yes, it completely is. And I think it's important to remember that most of us were not modeled it at all.
No.
Most of us, when we were younger, when we had feelings, we were sent to our room, or we were told, don't worry about it, or we were ignored, or maybe you were even hit, you know, if you're upset about something. So most of us did not have an emotional imprint around it's safe to feel what we're feeling. And I think a lot of the adults I work with are relearning how to do that now. And then, of course, we find it super challenging with our kids, you know, and it's why when our kids are upset or angry or frustrated, our default is to want to stop it. It's to want to fix it. It's to want to make it go away, because it can often tap us into the deeper wounds within us that we were never listened to in that way. We were not able to go, I'm so mad about this. You know, we weren't allowed. And so that taps us into our own hurts and pains that we haven't felt.
Absolutely. And I notice it in school as well with my children sometimes. If my child has a big feeling at school, I've had teachers say things like, oh, he's a bit highly strung. Or, I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Has he had a feeling?
Yeah.
Are you for real?
Yeah. Yeah. Are we not just seeing that they're just responding to the environment?
Going on? Word. I just say, oh yeah, he's a deeply feeling child.
Yeah.
That's what I say. I wouldn't
or
call
he's
it
emotionally in touch with how we.
Yes. That's
well, it's crazy, isn't it? Because our system still expects children to walk in, sit down, do what they're told, and be good, and not be robots. Like that's what, and that's a good child. A good child is one who is compliant, who doesn't challenge anything, and tries to please you. Like that's what our society and culture still thinks is an acceptably good child.
Yeah.
But that actually child grows up to be a deeply repressed adult who doesn't know how to speak their truth, or doesn't have good boundaries, or is unable to feel deeply because they're so conditioned to be a good boy or a good girl.
Yeah, really disconnected. That's right. And it's really interesting working in this space and learning. I mean, I remember I had one session when I was going through some of my, I guess, my early stages of parenting as a single mother and recovering from addiction, self-medicating trauma, etc. And I remember going to see this amazing energy healer. She's actually now one of my dear friends. And I walked into her apartment and I burst into tears. And I said, "What's going on? I just got here. I don't even know you. You haven't even said anything to me. I'm so sorry." And she said, "No, don't be silly. Everybody does that. Everybody walks in here and bursts into tears because I just completely charged this space as a space of unconditional love.
Yeah.
And you're not used to it. Nobody's used to it."
Yeah.
So as soon as you walk in, and it was very funny, I was there another time at the end of the session, and she was about to be in like the Sydney Morning Herald, a mainstream newspaper, and they had sent a photographer to take her photo. And the photographer walked in, on a job, and same thing, burst into tears. And I said, "Oh, don't worry, I did the same thing when I got here for the first time." She was like, "What's happening?" And she said, "No, don't worry, everyone does it." Very interesting. And I think, I had to learn, like I had to experience that sense of safety in certain people to be able to then give that safety to others.
Absolutely.
So it's like a domino effect.
100%. And a lot of the work I do in parenting is around that because, parents come to me going, my children keep having tantrums or they won't cooperate or, they're numbing out all the time. And, what can I do with that? And one of the first pieces is, well, do we make it safe enough for them to feel what they're really feeling? And then how do we make it safe enough within our own bodies to then listen to them? And so what you're saying here is, we have to actually do the work on ourselves, often in order to be the parent we need to be.
100%.
And if we want to raise our kids to be emotionally connected and aware, then we have to look back at our story first. We have to look back and go, well, what was I modeled around feelings and emotions? What was I modeled around trust? What was I modeled around anger? What was I modeled around boundaries? All these key elements that shape who we are. And was what I was modeled, does that serve me now? Am I still playing that out? And what do I need to do to change that story and that imprint and heal what is there for me? Because the more we do that, the more we do the work, then the less we are going to project onto our children. And that is a gift, because if we often project our unconscious stuff onto the kids, then our kids are like, "I don't want to carry this." And they throw it back at us. And that's what we label as defiant behavior or, being uncooperative. Whereas really our kids are like going, "Can you please sort out your rubbish? It's not mine to carry."
Switched on. And I love that. And that's the journeying through that you speak of, I think. I love the way you speak about this. You tell it in a very understandable way, breaking it down in a beautiful way. I really appreciate it. I think it's fascinating too. Like I think something happened recently. I'm just thinking of an example. Something happened with maybe another parent at school, and I spoke very clearly around, they've got some stuff going on and I can sense it, and I'm not going to engage with that because I know it's not about me. And I said something like that to my husband, and he said, "People don't think like that."
Yeah.
Most people don't think like that.
They don't.
Like you can't expect other people to understand this stuff because you're unusual in that way. He said, "I only know what you're talking about because you showed it to me."
Yes.
And he's now able to do that with our children. And I would say we're not always able to do this. And I think it's okay to recognize that there'll be moments where it falls down. And we're doing this in a very
100%.
imperfect way. And that's all part of the way that we change it intergenerationally and own up, and we say, "I'm sorry, I kind of didn't do that very well," to our kids. And we let them in and transparently share what it is that's going on so they can understand and see the inner workings of the watch, if you like, like the key watch face, and see the way it works. And I think that's how we also share how they might carry that on through future generations. And
there is some
change. That's what we're talking about.
Yes. And there's so much magic in what you're talking about because, well, firstly, there is no perfect parent. You can't, no matter what you do, your child is going to have story because they're human and they're meant to have story because that's how they grow and they learn, and they have to experience adversity and they have to experience heartbreak and they have to experience all these elements because it's part of building this beautiful resilience within, and also developing their own inner compassion and empathy for themselves and for others. So no matter what we do, our kids are going to have stuff. And our job is to walk beside them and go, hey, that stuff is hard, but I am here and I believe in your ability to navigate this, and I'm right beside you.
Yeah.
And so, on one level, that's what we're working to do. So we've got to let go of this perfect story. And I love what you said too. The repairing of when we do things wrong is such a beautiful teaching and gift to our children, because if they see that we go, hey, I'm wrong, man, sorry, can we do that over again? Or, then that again is modeling. That's how we do that. That's how we do empathy. That's how we do apologizing. That's how we repair situations. So you're so right. There's beauty in that as well, because we're modeling that to our children. So it is such a huge work in progress. And I think we, again, are so conditioned to get it right. And we're influenced by social media and the world going, this is what good looks like. This is what your house should look like. And this is what you should look like. And this is what your children should look like. And this is what subjects they should be studying. And it's just all this external story that means nothing, because it's all about you and connecting and being real and doing your own work and then meeting your kids where they're at. That's what it's about.
I love that. And I also just really feel that those things that we're talking about, when we do them on a daily basis, they form the foundation of the voice your child will hear when they become an adult. I mean, they become, so rather than, oh, she looks terrible today, I don't like that woman, what a cow. That she's more likely, my daughter may be more likely to say, person's different to me and I didn't dress like that, but yes, that's okay. It's a completely different paradigm. And I think that inner self-talk stuff that a lot of us grapple with, I know a lot of the women I work with, certainly I also have it. There's a very self-critical voice in there.
Oh, wow.
And we are programmed, if you like, to be critical. Like, that's how we're made. It's how we make our way in the world, as we look for mistakes, problems, threats to our survival. It's kind of how we're made. So to change our relationship with that voice in our heads, to understand what it is and what it's for, and be able to have part of us that doesn't believe it, that doesn't give all of ourselves to it, that has another voice that is more compassionate, more gentle, more, I guess, self-forgiving and sort of self-believing, is a very interesting, like that is a really interesting thing to be able to do as a woman in our world, let alone a mother with a daughter or a son,
Oh, I love what you're saying there, because for me, compassion is always the answer. Because, what you said just so beautifully then is that we actually don't heal. We can't heal our past and our imprints unless we lean in with compassion. Because if we lean in with judgment, we are just continuing with this story of I'm wrong, I'm not enough. Whereas the reality is we're actually all enough. We were born enough. From the moment you were born, you're enough. But we then journey through life, and society or relationships make us believe the opposite. And I guess coming back to being a conscious parent is actually the deep inner knowing that you are enough just the way you are. And it comes through compassion, because, if we've had that beautiful negative voice in our head, which so many people have, and that is the loudest voice there, when we start to go, actually, I'm not going to let myself talk crap about myself. I'm going to stop it right there. Or I'm actually, yep, that was not one of my finest parenting moments, but instead of berating myself or feeling guilty, I'm going to put my hand on my heart. I'm going to take a deep breath and go, today was a hard day. And I'm going to be kind to myself and compassionate. And that's when we start the healing and the shifting. But we are
power.
Yes. We are so, so good at making ourselves wrong. And then here's what happens when we have that internal inner dialogue that is negative, whether we like it or not, we then project that onto our kids. And that's what our kids feel, right? And then that's where our kids will often go, I'm not very good at this, or I'm that, or I'm that. And even if we're like, I've never even said that to you, but because we're feeling it and we're carrying it, that's what our kids are constantly watching us. They're like, well, how does the world work? Oh, this is what relationships look like. Oh, this is what you do with anger. Oh, this is what you do with self-deprecation. This is so, our children are just constantly watching us, and that's, no pressure.
What I'm laughing about is the classic road rage. Like, I have got a habit from the past, my past brain, where if someone cuts me off or makes a bad move on the road, I say, "Oh, what a dick," and like I say it under my breath.
Yeah.
And I noticed I was saying it with the kids in the car, and I was like, "Gosh, that's terrible." And so if I say it, I say, "Well, that's not very nice. It's not being very nice then. They're probably just having a bad day." And I kind of like catch it up with the like compassionate bit after it. It's really funny.
All right. Beautiful.
So that's my way of catching myself when I'm being a not very nice person. I just show them the follow-up thought, like, "Oh yeah,
Perfect.
okay, I did that not very well. I'm going to do that differently next time,"
Yeah.
And it's my sort of like Achilles heel or something. When I'm driving, I become this kind of angry caretaker of the road or something. It's really weird.
You sound like my husband. He'll get this look on his face and I go, the other driver can't see you or feel what you're feeling, right? That and he's like, "Oh, it makes me feel better." But I love what you're saying there, because it's okay to feel angry and it's okay to have rage and it's okay to feel pissed off around stuff. But what we do with it is what matters and what we model to our children. So I love what you said there. You can be like, "Oh, I'm saying that. That's probably not a nice thing." They're noticing that you're actually then kind of correcting yourself back into it and you're being compassionate. And that's one of the big things I often teach parents is like, what do we model to our children around anger or sadness or worry, right?
Hard, those.
Hard. And so I often say to parents, so when you're angry, and here's the beautiful thing about our kids, because they're hardwired into us, they know when you're angry, because your little one will come up to you and go, "You okay, mama?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Right. And then they look at you with this look. Now, the reality is when we say we're fine and we're not, it gives such a mixed message to our kids, because our kids are feeling into their gut that says something's off with my mum. And so they come over and ask. And when they're getting a response that says no, then that is teaching them to not trust their gut,
to doubt themselves. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
So what happens within that then is they get this mixed message of, I can't trust what my gut says. And that's not ideal, because we want our children to learn to trust what their bodies are saying. So we are far better off if the child comes in and says, "Are you okay, mummy?" We can go, "Oh, God, I'm angry. I've got all these angry feelings in my body. And so I'm going to go outside and take my shoes off and stand on the ground and I'm going to yell at the trees. Or I'm going to put on music and do an angry dance. Or I'm going to get all this paper here and I'm going to rip it up really hard." And that's going to help me feel better. Or if they come and you're feeling sad, then you can say, "I've just got some sad feelings and I'm going to go and ring a friend, because it makes me feel better when I can talk to a friend and have a cry." We have to model to our children healthy ways to feel these feelings. But when we just pretend as adults, again, our children, they feel it and they're like, I'm not buying this. I'm not believing you here. Yeah. And then that imprint that sets up with them again is, when you have a feeling, don't reach out, don't own it, don't support it. That's the message we're giving. So it is so vital that as adults we speak it. Now, that doesn't mean that you curl up in a ball on the floor in the fetal position in the lounge room and sob hysterically if you're just home with your 4-year-old, right?
That could feel all about the terrible day.
Yeah, no, totally. That could feel overwhelming for them. Yeah. We need to reach out to adults to support us, but it's also really powerful to model to our children what we do with our stress, what we do with our upset, what we do with our feelings. It's really important that they begin to see that we have tools that we can work with, because then they're the tools that they learn.
Yes. Oh, I love that, Lael. It's so true. And I as you're speaking, I'm realizing that there's a couple of things I haven't been showing my children, like I've been protecting them from, in inverted commas, emotions that I feel are potentially negative, that I don't want them to see. And it's so true that actually it's really important. It's almost a responsibility to let them see those in a measured and conscious way.
Yes. And knowing that you're reaching out for support. So think about, if your 7-year-old is upset, what do you want your 7-year-old to do? You want your 7-year-old to walk in the room and go, "I feel so sad, Mum. Can you help me with my sad?" Or your 10-year-old comes in and goes, "I'm so angry. I didn't get picked for the football team and this isn't fair and that's not fair." And you go, "Yeah, I hear you, mate. What do you need to do? Let's feel this." Yeah. And then they have tools, or they have ways to feel their feelings, so then they can let them go. Yeah. Because when we don't model that, and we also don't teach our children how to do that, then they learn to just store it and repress it in their bodies, and then it comes out in other ways.
I think the bit of that I find the most challenging, if I'm really honest, is the part of it where if they come in and they're feeling something strongly and it's coming out a bit sideways and they're speaking to you in a way that is really unacceptable,
Yep.
that's the challenge for me, I think. That's the bit where I get most challenged because I say things like, I get that you're upset, but that doesn't mean you can say that word to me. Or I understand. What do you think about that? That's kind of the way I handle it.
Yeah. So I look at it this way. I explain it simply in the sense that kids and adults, we're either what we call in balance or out of balance. So when we're in balance, we're singing as we're, happily doing our thing, and we're talking all cutesy to the dog, or, one of your kids walks in and wants to play with your sibling and they're playing beautifully and you ask them to set the table for dinner and they do it happily. And that's when you see your child's in balance, they're feeling good. But when they walk into the room and they start picking a fight with their brother, or you ask them to take the rubbish out and they're like, why do I have to do everything? And they come back to you with all these big feelings, then that's a sign that they're out of balance. And I love to explain it like this. It's like they're standing there waving a red flag going, something's going on for me. I'm not feeling good, but I don't actually know how to deal with it. And it is our job as the adult to be the anchor, is to look behind the behavior and go, oh, there's something up here. Yeah. So I think a very helpful thing for our brains to understand is this: no child wants to be mean to you, to someone else, to the dog. They don't want to speak harshly to you. They don't want to call you an effing idiot. They are doing it because they're out of balance. There's something brewing in their bodies. They've got pain there. They're hurting. There's worry. There's a whole lot of stuff that's brewing, and they're trying to find a way to release it. So kids bring their big feelings to the safest place, which is usually us, or hopefully us. So when your child walks in and goes, you're the worst mum in the world and I can't believe you're doing that, then how I respond is by kind of tilting my head to the side and go, whew, you sound like you got something going on there, mate. Tell me more. So I often don't make them wrong for what they're saying, because I actually know they don't like talking to you in that way. But what's in front of that is a whole lot of stuff that they're trying to move. And our job is to then bring the safety to them to help those feelings move. So anger is just a mask for sad that sits underneath.
I love that. Anger is a mask for sad.
So
True.
yeah. So in those moments, you can lean in and go, and say what you see. I can see you're really mad, mate, and you're using some big words here. You know what? I love you. Even if you're saying you hate me right in this moment, I'm right here. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's move this. Let's go. And so you lean in, and it takes an anchoredness within us as an adult. It takes a calmness to do that. Now, if we grew up in environments where we felt disrespected, where we got yelled at a lot, where we weren't able to speak our truth, then when our child comes in and does something like that to us, so often it's going to tap us right into our powerlessness, which will then make us go, how dare you speak to me that way? Yeah. And then straight away, it's our kind of, inner 6-year-old having a battle with your 6-year-old here. And we've lost kind of our adult peace because we're tapped into our own wounds and feelings. It is very hard, though, to stand there when your child perhaps is being disrespectful or, and it doesn't mean that we don't set limits around behaviors, right? Like you would walk over and say, I'm not willing to let you hurt your brother in that way. And I'm here to keep you both safe, but I'm not willing for you to do that. And what we're wanting to do is set those boundaries so that our kids have something to push up against, so they can get past the anger and the stuff that's sitting there and move to the feelings underneath. So, there's different layers to it, right? Because here's the thing, and you may have experienced this. Your child might speak harshly to you and they're really angry. And then if you stick with them and you don't make them wrong and we don't shame them for what they're saying or punish them, if they get to move the feelings, what will happen afterwards? They'll come and go, I'm so sorry I called you that. Yes. Or I'm sorry I did that. And you'll be like, yeah, I know. You had some stuff there. How could we do it a bit differently next time? Yeah. So this is all part of learning. This is all part of developing that emotional intelligence, that emotional awareness. People, when they lash out and hurt people, are because they're hurting. Yeah. And again, I want to be really clear on this. It doesn't mean that we don't have boundaries and limits. And sometimes if our kids are acting out, the safest thing we do is I need to move you to another room to keep everybody safe here. Yeah. And it might need to blow off, some of the feelings they've got there. And, if we can be as present as we can, because those big feelings feel very scary for children. Yeah. So if we can be there to be that anchor point and to hold the space, then it can actually move. But it is super, super hard to do because, again, this was not modeled to us. it is very hard to sit in the fire with our kids and stay centered. It's really tricky. It's taken me years of practice to not be reactive, to be able to sit there and go, "Woo, something big's going on. Come on, mate. I'm here. I'm here to help you. Let's go."
Interesting you say that. So I have an 18-year-old, and I noticed that with him, I'm a lot better at doing what you just said than with my younger children. I have 5 and 9 as well. And so it's interesting because thinking about it, it could be because the 5 and 9-year-old in me was less empowered than the 18-year-old. But it also, I think, is around that the 18-year-old and I have developed a way to navigate those storms.
Yes.
And because he's older and has more practice, I'm more practiced at parenting him. We have a language or a signposting system through that. Where I say, "Mate, I can hear something going on downstairs," because he lives downstairs. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, Mum, leave me alone. I'll talk to you later."
Yeah.
And that's my sign of, all right, he's handling it. He's angry, but he's handling it.
Yeah.
He knows what to say to tell me.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And I know what to say to tell him. It's very efficient because he's practiced it over 18.
Totally. Yep.
Right.
And I always come back to this is if you were a 5-year-old who was really angry or a 9-year-old who was full of rage, what would you want from an adult in that moment? Would you want one to come in and go, "Why are you so upset? What's going on?" Would you want them to come in and kind of power over you? Would you want them to just ignore you? No, what you would want is you'd want an adult to walk in who is calm and go, "Hey, I can see this is big. I'm here. I'm not leaving. I'm right. I'm rock solid and I've got you and I can help you." That's what we would all deeply desire because that brings a safety that says, "Hey, you love me no matter what. You love me in my anger." Yes, that's exactly it. But we're getting the message then that says, "You love me when I'm mad. You love me when I'm upset. You love me when I'm happy. You love me when I'm joyous." Whereas when we can't meet our kids in those big feelings, the message we're often giving them is, "I only love you when you're good."
That's right.
And then that sets up a whole other story. It's when most of us end up in therapy as adults.
Oh, yes. It's funny you say that because just a little while ago, I felt like I had to come up with an acronym because I've used this name Soul Mama for so many years now. And I came up with the acronym Simple, Ongoing, Unconditional Love. And that's what soul is.
Beautiful. I love it.
Universe. That's what we need. That's what we need.
Yes.
That's what we most need to give our children.
Yes. Yes.
So it's a really key, and it sounds very wishy-washy. It's so not.
I love it. I think it's beautiful.
It's lovely the way you're explaining it. Yeah. So I feel like we could go on for about 3 days in this kitchen stage. I might have to invite you back, Lael.
Okay. I'd be very happy to.
It's been absolutely delightful to speak with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time. We've never met before, and I feel like it's always amazing when I can meet somebody for the first time and we go so deep and get so to the heart and the fire of things. It's just beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love the work that you're doing in the world for all those beautiful parents. And I think the more we can share and send a message of this connection and compassion and raising our children with awareness, then it's a gift to the planet everywhere. So I'm always happy to, support and speak about it with others.
Thank you, Lael. Beautiful settling into your new home. And
thank you so much.
Speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us on Unboxable. My hope is that today's episode gave you a moment of insight, peace, or connection to carry into the rest of your week. If it did, please share the show with someone you love or subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you're ready for deeper support and a place to sustain your growth, you can join me inside the Lime Life Method at alenaturley.com/join or find other resources, both free and paid, in the show notes. As you go through your week, remember that the things that separate you from yourself or from others or from nature are not nearly as powerful as the things that connect you. Until next time, go gently, my friends.